for attending another press conference at Freedom House. The leader of the opposition just concluded his press conference. And as we've come to expect, he's very vague about many matters. But we can tolerate vagueness. But when he deliberately sets out to mislead the country, I think it is incumbent on us to correct this. And so I'm going to go directly to one issue that was asked of him at the press conference. I think it was Newsroom that asked him about how many constituencies APNU is contesting. And the leader of the opposition said virtually all. In Letem, we had a problem, and we wrote the Election Commission, and that ended dealing with that. So that ended dealing with that meant that they did not submit a list. But in many other areas, we've submitted. I think we had a problem at Grove, and their own weren't submitted, but across the country, we've submitted in virtually all the NDCs, all the constituencies, and all the towns, except for Letem, where there is a problem. Now, what are the facts? The facts are that APNU only contested in 279 of the 610 constituencies across the country. APNU contested, I'm repeating this, APNU is contesting in 279 of the 610 constituencies in the country. That's about 45% of all the constituencies in the country. He just said to the media a few minutes ago that they're contesting in virtually all of the constituencies in the country. Now, 45% can be equated to all, virtually all of the constituencies. So that's fact number one. He just lied to the entire country. Number two is that when we look at how many constituencies are being contested by APNU and other groups in the country, it will be about 327 of the 610. That is with APNU and other individuals as well as other groups. So what this means that there will be no contest and no contest in about 283 of the 700 and 610 constituencies. That means that the PPP has already won those constituencies because we contested in all 610 right across the country. So we have already practically won 283 of the 610 constituencies. Now, this is for a national party, like the APNU, to contest in only 45% of the constituencies in the country is a total disaster for that party under his leadership. And in terms of areas that APNU has not contested, APNU has not contested 24 areas, local government areas across Ghana. 24 areas they did not contest in of the 80. So these are the facts. I would like to go on and tell you a bit more about this, but I'll come back to it at some point in time today when we talk about composition of the list. So we have now moved on. I want to move on to a couple of other issues at the press conference, before I come back to this issue. He sought to disparage Chase Green. He said that Chase Green was not part of their list as a constituency candidate in 2018. That was factually incorrect also. So Norton doesn't even know their own history as a political party. He does not even know their own history as a political party. He spoke about illegalities, and I want to deal with those. I agree with Mr. Norton on this point, that anyone who has committed any illegality in these elections should face the full brunt of the law. And so we are aware that Mr. Norton's party has forged many candidates, their signatures, placed them on lists that they never had any knowledge of. They've forged signatures for the backers, and we're taking steps to address this matter. And I'm glad if Mr. Norton would do the same, since he says he has information, because we need to send a signal to anyone who is contesting these elections. All the parties, the individuals, as well as the other groups, that they should not commit fraud. If they're seeking to represent the people of this country, they must not engage in a fraudulent process to contest these elections. We've seen hundreds of people literally who have had their signatures forged, placed on lists without their knowledge. We have advised them to go to the police. Many have gone to the police. Many are also fighting. Many have written to GCOM. I have a documentary evidence of this. I can present this to the media a little bit later, not now at this press conference. But I just have one name here, just to give you an idea. This was written to the returning officer in Linden. It's from the desk of Mrs. Marsha McKinnon. She says here, APNU list of candidates for June 12, 2023 local government elections. I, Mrs. Marsha Alicia McKinnon of Lot 391 Ornock Drive, Retrieve, Linden, ID card, etc., state that I have not consented to be a candidate on the list of the APNU for the upcoming June 12, 2023 local government elections. I wish to state that I would like my name to be withdrawn from the list of candidates of the APNU, since I have not signed any document agreeing for my name to be presented as a candidate. This is not just a backer. This is a candidate that they forge the person's signature. I'm surprised and dismayed that my name is on a list of APNU candidates without my knowledge and consent for such. Returning officer, I'm hereby seeking via my plea to please take the necessary action to have my name removed from the above captioned list of candidates. This is a fact. This is just one person saying, a documentary evidence here saying that APNU in Linden placed on their list of candidates a person who never signed any document or consented to have their name on the list of candidates. This is what Mr. Norton and his party have done. And this has been right across, the pattern right across Ghana in many areas. So it's a disaster. Not only did they not contest in 24 local government bodies across the country, they did not contest in 55% of the constituencies across Guyana, but they also, in the areas where they've contested, they have been forging people's names to become their candidates and as backers. And so I'm very, very happy if we should go to the police and take police action against many of these people. We should do so, and I would support Mr. Norton in doing so against anyone who he believes or he has evidence to demonstrate that they forged people's signature. I said before, sometimes you can have mistakes made. We are very pleased that so far all of our lists were accepted, because the magnitude of the task before us when you contest every local government body. We contested all 610 constituencies and the PR list in all 80 local government bodies. We have over 2,000 candidates and over 25,000 backers. And we had to get all of them to sign up and to present them in the manner required by GCOM. That's a major, major task. And we managed, as the People's Progressive Party, to get that done, with our list being accepted right across the country, with minor deficiencies that through the GCOM's procedure, we are allowed to cure those minor deficiencies. So this is it. To have APNU not contest in Letem at all in Aranaputa, that they won at the last elections, and Letem, where that was very close, is also a big disaster for that party. You have no representation or no list whatsoever in Region 9. Nothing, no candidate. Now, this brings me to the list of candidates. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the People's Progressive Party. I just mentioned to you our list, and on our list, the 2,020 persons, candidates, 1,161 are men, and 859 women. We had between 18 to 35 young people, 613 of them. Between 36 to 50, 691. And over 50, 716 persons. On the list, you had 341 Afro-Guyanese, 84 Amerindians, and 187 mixed persons, and about 1,408 Indo-Guyanese. So that's the composition of our list across the country. It gives you a breakdown, and we can do this by every local government area that we're contesting. You can see the ethnic breakdown, the gender breakdown, age of our list. Now, when you look at the APNU's list lack diversity in almost every area. This is a party that has been talking about it is fighting racism. It used to peddle the fallacy that they're the multi-ethnic coalition. Well, this coalition, APNU, if you look at their list, in almost every area, it's probably over 98% Afro-Guyanese alone. No diversity whatsoever. And these are areas even where the overwhelming population in those areas that they're contesting our Indo-Guyanese or Amerindians. So we can put this fallacy to rest, that this is a dying party that has always promoted racism, but has shouted the loudest about racism in Guyana. It always does that. It has promoted for too long that it is this multi-ethnic party. We have demonstrated, I said this at Babujan, I said that in opposition, we're the party that said openly that we're strong on the Indo-Guyanese support. We have grown strong with Amerindian support overwhelmingly, and that our party is deficient in terms of representation of Afro-Guyanese, and we're going to work to correct that. And as General Secretary and in the government. And you've seen a progression of this happening. We have worked consistently to a point where, for example, in Linden, our list of candidates in Linden had among maybe 98% of both lists in Linden and Kwakwani were Afro-Guyanese and Amerindians. In Georgetown, the bulk of the list is Afro-Guyanese. In New Amsterdam, our list is balanced. In Rose Hall, right across the country, as you have seen from the number of candidates. We have been able to field candidates from around the country, people of different races. And no, they were not paid to be candidates. They were not paid to be supporters or to come on the street. And I'm shocked that the story since the list of candidates were submitted has not been about the only party that has been able to cross a threshold to get their list of candidates looking like Guyana. That is the People's Progressive Party. The reports are focused on Chase Green and a few others, but they've missed the key point, which we have been saying over and over, that the People's Progressive Party is a party, a national party, as we have demonstrated over and over and over again, and progressively it will grow in this regard. People have been calling. They don't need to be paid. Just yesterday, people from their various communities, Afro-Guyanese, everyone, calling to get where they can come and collect their T-shirts and stuff like that. We don't need to pay people to do that. So Norton, I saw, and what became the issue was some fake WhatsApp message that he shared, a screenshot of it that Norton shared, that triggered all of this. And then suddenly, we have to be defending that we didn't pay anyone. We're not on the defensive. You just go and talk to the people. You can't buy enthusiasm. Our crowd was enthusiastic. You can't buy enthusiasm. You go and see the group taking in the list in Linden or in Georgetown and interview the people. And you would see that it all come voluntarily to the People's Progressive Party. And then they went and said, oh, this guy was on the list because the footballer, he got a contract from the government, as though people who support the PPP, regardless of their race, whether they're Indo-Guyanese, Afro-Guyanese, Amerindian, they're not entitled to get any work, ones who support the PPP. Well, we will defend. We are developing this entire country. We've been fair in allocation of contracts. But if you vote PPP, that doesn't mean automatically you're excluding yourself from getting contracts or working for the government. It's a free society, and you have a right to do that. In fact, rather than running the guy down, they should be happy because he is a young, bright Afro-Guyanese, a national footballer who has made a choice which is separate from his football, a political choice that he wants. that he wants to support a party which is his constitutional right. I've seen some of the vilest things, including from one of the assistant coaches of the Guyana team, who I believe should be reported to FIFA for his racism. This is it. People being called names about soup drinkers and all sorts of things, sell out, as though they own people in this country. This has always been the behavior of the PNC. They're not enlightened. It's a different age. People are making choices. They were a disaster in government, and they are being an even bigger disaster in opposition. Why should people hang on to them? They have no future. And people are making that assessment in their families, in their homes, and they're seeing our track record. And that is why they're supporting the PPP. These are not sellouts. These are smart, conscious people who want to change their lives for the better. In fact, I may say the converse, that the people who are sticking with APNU might now, they're unambitious. We like ambitious people. So I've now seen much about the story of the PPP and its list of candidates, and how it's the only party that has had a multi-ethnic approach to these elections, and that APNU have gone back in a very fossilized way. First of all, not contesting the elections, that it's moribund, that it's dying, that it's not contesting the election in many areas, that the leader of the opposition came and lied to the press a few minutes ago, lied blatantly to the press, as he's been very disparaging about people, as though they're tied at the hip to him and his mediocrity and his party's lack of progress, that they must, and anybody who supports the PPP is a sellout. So these are just, I can go on the local government elections. We plan to introduce you from next week to our candidates. You'd have a chance to speak with them, listen to them, why they're supporting the PPP and our agenda for development in their communities. You'll get a chance to relate to them directly. But we have more young people on our list. I saw somebody said in one editorial that, APNU has brought in a couple of young people. We have more young people on our list than they have in their total list. And their total list, because they didn't contest in many areas. So what about the PPP and the youth dimension too? Bringing in young people into local government. These are just a few of the things that I wanted to say. I hope that GCOM will pay careful attention to all of these groups now outside of the PNC, because I believe the PNC, APNU, could not contest in some areas, so they have front groups. They're supporting a few front groups who are aligned to them, because they can't go into some areas. APNU name is in the mud in those areas. So they have gone through or are supportive of some other groups. I have now, as we analyze the other groups contesting, about 20 of them who have forged on a mass scale the names of people, leaving out APNU. Over 20 of those groups and individuals who have forged people's signature. And I hope that GCOM pays particular attention to this. As I said before, we will be talking to the police and about these issues. We've urged people to go to the police, and we're going to take strong measures to deal with this. Now, APNU's list was so good that their own members of parliament didn't support it, as someone pointed out. They were absent on the day, like the nomination day. The list was so great that they were missing. But they've started back on the ground. The same propaganda that you hear, but they're seeming, at the national level now, they're being called out more and more on their racism. But do not think that APNU will change. So they can't get away with it at the national level because we've been committed to fighting this off. And every single day to speak about this issue, that our party is the only party that is open to people of every race and will ensure that they're treated fairly. That is the only party. And that APNU is the converse, that it's not a party of the future. But they have continued with this message on the ground. So I got a call a couple of days, 2 days ago, that they were campaigning in a part in Linden. And someone went, and so they're resurrecting this old disproved thing that Starbuck knows itself through that middle page spread when they accused us of killing 400 young black men. That's why they said that the PPP killed those people. And when the Starbuck News listed all of the names and went through people who died, who was a criminal, who was policemen, who were victim, people of every race, all of that. And some weren't even killed. Some died from natural causes, but APNU was saying 400. Rickford Burke has increased that to 1,400 now. It's gone from 400 to 1,400. But one would think that we put that to rest. But in Linden, last night, the night before, they were telling people, resurrecting that old thing about, 400 persons were killed, black persons were killed by the PPP. This is the racism that they're peddling on the ground. They're telling the vendors, they've gone through the market and told the vendors that if the PPP wins the election in Georgetown, you're going to be thrown off the road. You're not going to have a place to vend. You would recall that when APNU led an assault on the vendors in the period when they were in office, it was the PPP that was fighting to ensure that this didn't happen. We said people had to have a place to make a livelihood once they're engaged in honest, decent business activities. That the country had to create an opportunity for those people. And so here in the city too, the vendors have nothing to worry about, but the whisper campaign has started. This is how they work in communities that are Afro-Guyanese. They can't campaign openly and carry the racist message because they know now they'd be called out on it as they've been called out. I saw when they called people soup drinkers and everything, a slew of young people, young Afro-Guyanese, I'm very proud of that, came out on social media to tackle them about this disparaging way of treating with people. And some were very thoughtful comments saying, you should analyze why people have left, why they've switched, why they're going to the PPP. And the faults are in you. You have offered nothing so far. You're 28 years in government, and the country became one of the poorest in the hemisphere. And in the 5 years, it was another assault on people's livelihoods and their well-being, including young people, had no opportunity in that period. And they're seeing it back now, the vibrancy that is restored to the economy. So that is why they should look at this. So I would like to, and we have no apology. You know, sometimes people are apologetic. Oh, you're working. We want people to support us. We will work for their support. We want everybody to support Indo-Guyanese, Amerindians, mixed, Afro-Guyanese. And so we will work to change their lives because we want them to support us. We're a political party. But we're not going to say support us because we're Indian party or African party or anything else. We want you to support us based on how we manage the country and the opportunities we create and solving your problems. That's normal. They make it look like it's strange. Oh, the PP is fixing the grounds in Linden, you know, an ICC ground, a FIFA ground, retrieve ground, because they want your support. Of course we want the support. We're doing it. You didn't do anything in Linden. You didn't do housing in Linden. You want them people to support you because you are PNC, because of race, but you don't want them to support us when we go and work for their support. Why should we be apologetic about working for people's support in this country? And why should people, when they see the work and they come to us, why should they be disparaged? This is an utter set of nonsense. They've carried on. In Guyana, I think the racism has been exposed, and more people have had them under the microscope now. So they're externalizing this. They go abroad to externalize, because at some of the fora where we are not, then they spread the race hate again. So I saw some Amanza Walton speaking at some place, the US National Action Network, and saying that the PPP is totalitarian. This comes from a person and a party that actively sought to steal the last elections. I remember Amanza Walton, who left her cushy job at the Civil Aviation Authority, didn't go to work there. She was at the convention center in the recount trying to thwart the recount, trying to mislead people. She was there, a person who tried to steal an election from a party that is known for stealing elections and was true to form in the last one, again, tried to steal the last one, telling the people in the US that we are a totalitarian government, and including the US that helped to expose the machinations here and also help threaten sanctions against the APNU, and some of them were sanctioned because they were trying to steal the elections. Imagine that. But you know what? She will say this to a group of people who don't know of the APNU's history and do not know about their attempts, their historical proclivity towards stealing elections. You can't change that. So that is, she takes that message there because she can't tell a sane Guyanese that in Guyana and not have them laugh at her. The next thing she says, oh, the government is racist because some female officer and private attorney spat on a female police officer. But the government of Guyana is racist because of that. Now that has to take its full course in the courts and everywhere else. If a person does that and racist, people have recourse now that we put in place, the Ethnic Relations Commission, or go to the police. And then something else about the police. Now the police, a black commissioner, Afro-Guyanese commissioner, killing somebody else. Those are the examples of us being racist. Can't talk about the housing policy because under them they didn't have one, and that Guyanese of every race now have realizing a dream to own a house. Can't talk about employment opportunities because maybe 40, 50,000 people now are working more than when they left office just recently. Can't talk about that. Cannot talk about the children because they took away the grant for all the children, not Indo-Guyanese children, but children all across Guyana. Now they're getting the restoration of the grant. The pensioners, all the pensioners are getting back their free water, etc. They can't speak about that, any institutionalized racism, because when you look at our track record, it's clear. You can't talk about the composition of the cabinet because the cabinet reflects Guyana. We have 7 ministers in the government that hold some of the most substantial portfolios that are Afro-Guyanese. But she goes off to an unsuspecting audience in New York to tell them about we're racist because somebody spat on another person. That is how hollow they have become. And the only place they have resonance is overseas because people don't know them. So that's where they're taking this message now. And they're being encouraged by a lot. If you look at the state of African Americans in the US, they're in a worse position. If you look at the judiciary, the composition of the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, it is not as representative, ethnically representative as that of Guyana. It is not as representative. In fact, far from it. But they make the case over there. So this will continue. Their only place there is through these organizations. And then they have the front organizations. Now, as I said before, I've seen a long letter in the newspapers that we are intolerant to NGOs and the criticism. I've dealt with this already in the last press conference. I've gone through the massive support we give to NGOs dealing with children and people who are homeless and those who are addicted and those who are providing valuable services to the country, the private sector, the labor movement, the religious bodies, the engagements we have. Look at the president going as soon, anyhow, don't deal with that now. So I've pointed this out already, but the NGOs that we have been critical of are those who are misleading their international groups by sending misleading reports as though we must see the report and not say anything about it. Like when Transparency International in Guyana lied openly, and everyone in Guyana knows that they were lying when they sent a report in 2019 saying that APNU was the one publishing contracts, APNU was the one strengthening the Integrity Commission. All a lie. We must stay quietly and not expose them. And I see a new head now, Collins. You notice they're silent on that. They should say if he was part of it, approval of that report, and whether they will withdraw it because it's a lie, and the Transparency International globally has used that report and republished it when it's a lie. They can't disprove to a single Guyanese that the report was a total fabrication on the part of Transparency International Guyana. We must stay quiet and not expose it. We must not expose the McCormack as a one-person organization, not representative. We must not expose the APA for all that it stands for. Political organization linked to APNU, its leaders are linked to APNU, lie even recently about who started the land titling program openly, disputing Stabroek News, saying that she was misquoted, the head of APA, and then Stabroek News had to prove it otherwise. We must not say a word and defend ourselves because they're NGOs and they can peddle lies that affect our country, but we must stay quiet on it. That's not an attack. That is exposing people who have made this a business. We support advocacy and the NGOs, we support the development. We've opened up the policy making by soliciting views on almost every major bit of legislation that we've passed outside or from the parliament. We've solicited views. We've been have an open process towards that, more open than any government. We passed the Freedom of Information law. We were the ones who passed it. We are the ones now who have published all of these contracts on the website for the oil and gas industry, almost everything. So this is, I seen them come out, oh, we are offended that the government is criticizing us now. And look at the usual suspects. They are all from the Red Thread, which is a political group aligned to the WPA. They're the counterpart, the extreme counterpart, but a little bit more sophisticated than the Ogunseya part, who are more brutal and more racist, and openly so. They're the sophisticated, but they're all part of the WPA. And they present themselves as well-meaning citizens, and they're politically aligned, all of them, and have been. So when they sign letters, if you go back historically and see from 2010, 2009, you will see that it's the same faces appearing all the time. And in the 5 years under APNU, with the most egregious faults that APNU pursued in the forestry sector, they gave a PNC MP who was on the board a large concession. Had that happened under the PPP, we would have been slaughtered. The same Janet Vulcan and all the others were silent on it because they were on the board. In the oil and gas sector, they signed the agreement that we all complain about today. They were silent because Trotman signed it. When the Integrity Commission for 3 years, they didn't submit their statements, no problem. When the ministers were taking bids directly to the cabinet, unsolicited bids, and bypassing the tender board contrary to the law, they stayed silent. They emerged after 2020 again. So when a Van der Radzig and all the others pretend as though, oh, we're offended that we're, or Janet Vulcan, the PPP, they were all tied at the hips to APNU, tied at the hips, and continue to be tied at the hips. So we are not intolerant of criticism. In fact, but on the oil and gas sector, on that one project, we've answered, I said at the last week's press conference, that in a single press conference, we have dealt with more issues on the oil and gas sector policy-wise than APNU did in 5 years. And I will put my entire career on that fact. I place it at stake. And in 5 years, Truckman, Granger, who were the two heads of the oil and gas sector, the ministers responsible, never held a single press conference to deal exclusively about gas, oil and gas sector, or the contracts. In 5 years, combined 5 long years, in one press conference, we dealt with more issues and answered more questions than that. That is the reality, but they didn't have a problem with transparency then. In fact, we got a high star from Transparency International for openness. That is the thing. So when I see these fake crybabies now, oh, the government criticizing us, it's not criticizing. We're defending our policies. We're defending ourselves, and we're exposing the duplicity. People didn't know much about, what's her name again, that she worked for an oil and gas company before. They didn't know that she was working for many, many years for an oil and gas company, Melinda Janke, until it was exposed. People were shocked that she grew up in the oil and gas industry and then suddenly came and said, we're the ones causing global warming here in Guyana. Our little emissions causing global warming. And want to shut down everything here. And what happens if we have an oil spill? What would happen? That's a new question. It's a rhetorical question you can ask every single day. So to avoid that totally, the only way you can say that, don't develop the industry. Leave the oil there. Norway does it, grow rich doing that. Saudi Arabia grew rich doing that. The United States grew rich doing that. Almost lots of oil producing countries in the world. But in Guyana's case, we must worry what happens if the spill. Well, we're taking steps in the legislation to address it. We're taking steps. When the first environmental permit was issued, it had nothing about having a capping stock here that can allow you to deploy it quickly in country to plug a well should any of that happen. And then that the company has to keep a subscription with the international companies that provide that service, so that in case there is a spill, we have a capability. We're doing more training. The EPA is strengthening itself. We're inviting specialists in. I was in India, different places. We're going to put the personnel and the procedures in the EPA, as we're doing already, to buttress the stronger permits that we're giving now, to make it the companies act more responsibly, but also to have a capability, a domestic capability to address that, and not await for an international capability. That's what we are doing. But it's almost as the only answer you can give. What if we have an oil spill? So what the answer would be? Shut down the industry. Our answer is strengthen our capability to address it, because we've made it clear already we are not shutting down the oil and gas sector. If the world could utilize these resources and there continues to be a global demand, then Guyana will be part of that supply mix, and the resources would be utilized for development purposes, which we have already outlined: education, world-class healthcare, to assist the other sectors so that we don't suffer the ill-fated Dutch disease, to utilize some of these funds for adaptation in the future. So when the oil resources go, or you have net zero, then we don't have to worry any longer, because we would have adapted our coastlines, our waterways, our ability to manage and handle greater volumes of water, we would have a greater capability. That's where some of the funds will be coming from. I said it over and over: if we wait for adaptation funds from the international community, we turn blue waiting like the rest of the world is waiting, small countries. We're doing this on our own. So we have explained all of this. One thing we have done, we have explained every single one of our positions and the justifications from why we're doing this, the reasons why. So the group there. Now, I've seen another big thing about the attack on journalists. So let me make it clear. So I was wondering where this was coming from, because I don't recall a single minister of this government or any person in the cabinet or any member of parliament in the recent history who has attacked a journalist. I can't point to a single example. So then I was told that somebody said that there is a website, again, the oil and gas network, that same group. Look at the people who issued the statement, that a website said some vile things about a reporter from the Kaichor News. So I looked at it, and indeed it was vile. It was vile, and I condemn it. But that's not the People's Progressive Party's view or the government's view. And it's not an attack against journalists. That was a disparaging set of comments that were made, vile comments, and should have never been made, and I condemn it. But that's not the PPP's position. Now let's contrast this. So this selective outrage from something totally not associated with the PPP, because I don't recall any member of the government criticizing a journalist. What has happened, I suspect that the Glenlal has been waging a new campaign and talking to the same NGO groups, the same fossil, because he has come to my press conference several times. This is what Kaichor News does. He brings 5 reporters to my press conferences. The last one was an example. I answered questions, several questions from each of the 5 reporters. Several questions from each of the 5 reporters. Now, in anywhere globally, that would not happen. You wouldn't even get accredited more than one news, maybe 1 or 2 journalists to come to a briefing. We didn't put any restrictions on him. And then he comes himself as the publisher. Everybody knows he's a politician. And I even answer questions from him. But when he doesn't even understand the question that he's going to ask me, what do you expect me to say? I say to him, I don't understand your question. And then I have to get him to go to the journalist at the last press conference. I say, please ask the journalist to ask me, because I don't understand what you're saying. This is a politician coming to the press conference, and I even allow him to do that. He's as publisher. Because you see, he distorts every single thing. It's no secret to anybody. He says the weirdest things. I've proven how many times over and over again, openly, the headlines that are lies, total lies. The last one about the Marriott and everything else. And so that, I don't know if that is what. So I suspect he went back, was unhappy, and suddenly that's the attack. I answered questions from 5 of his journalists, several questions, and him also. But I can't be tolerant to stupidity too, because it's overbearing. So that is what maybe they're referring to, because the PPP didn't say anything else about attack on any journalist. I've made it clear, even to the Kaichor News journalists. I said to them, I know that you're not, I said this publicly, that you're not responsible for the headlines. He changes the headlines. I know they write stories that are totally different, balanced, and then he goes and changes it. So I'm not running down the journalists. So it can't be that. So what is it? What is it? Where is this? And then I see last night something from the Morar Wave. Pressure mounts on PPP government for attacking journalists. As PNC member, F-bombs reporters. Listen to this headline from the Morar Waves. Pressure mounts on PPP government for attacking journalists as PNC member F-bombs reporters. How could the PNC member F-bombs the reporter and pressure mounts on the PPP because of that? It's connected. I don't know what pressure you're talking about, but we didn't attack any journalists. We didn't attack any journalists. So that's one. It's all to sidetrack attention. This is what they're good at. To go, and then internationally again, Nazima Raghubir, who was over and over, although we're civil to her, she's demonstrated a partisan behavior. And as though we can't say that. But over and over again, then you're going to see some international body who wouldn't know the facts again, listen to these and condemn. I guess that's what they want. But let's look at the selective outrage. So Rickford Burke, every single day, cusses out in the vilest term journalists in this country and everyone else. Rickford Burke is openly a proponent of the happening. I don't see any condemnation. Benchcop is another one, openly criticizing journalists. David Hines, threatening journalists. Ogunse, threatening journalists. Shara Duncan, who is not just a social media commentator, but also a member of parliament of the coalition. Almost on a daily basis, he criticizes not only journalists, but women. I saw some female group criticize. He talks about their hair, Gail Teixeira hair, her dress, about Priya Manikchan, all of that, in very personal ways, disparage them openly on social media. Why and this has been going on all the time. Where is the condemnation from a sitting member of parliament who does this? You can't find a single PPP member of parliament or minister doing anything of that sort. Where are these people who are condemning it? So I've seen it's a storm in a teacup again. That we've made it clear, even though we believe that some of the questions are part of a political campaign, particularly from Kaicho News, we'll continue to deal with them. And you would hear again over and over, and the rest of the press corps knows that these questions have been answered over and over again, excepting that one body. So I've seen an attempt to divert attention. They're very good at that. The APA started and we had to respond pointing out everything else. Imagine they filed a complaint trying to stop money going to the indigenous communities. They were invited to be part of the process, as we've outlined. You saw the release. They refused to be part of the process. They were supposed to help with the process. And then they filed this complaint in secret. And they talk about free, prior, informed consent. And didn't seek the consent of the villagers, the over 200 villages that they purport to represent, to ask them, would you want us to file a complaint to stop your money coming to you? And that's free, prior, informed consent. Only for the government, not for them. So they then disparage the head of the NTC. But we know that the NTC is the only representative body in the country. But they're unhappy because the NTC called them out. And not a single Tushao that came here that supported the LCDS, supported the forest carbon sale program, that set up their account and now have their money, their share of the first tranche of the money in their account, that are busy doing the village development plans. Not a single one will support them to stop these funds. Yet they are gone internationally to try to block these resources coming to the indigenous people. But they did this before with Norway, as I said before. They tried to block the funds coming from Norway. So we have to almost fight every single day to try to get back to the facts, because you have a bunch of so-called NGOs that are politically aligned, that operate under the cover of the NGOs, that try to run down government policy in every area. And when we defend ourselves, they say, oh, the big bad PPP don't want us to speak. They can speak freely. This is a free country. We have a free media. We have a free media here. And you have diversity in the media. So you can speak freely. You don't hear about journalists being killed or anything else in this country or being threatened, except by Norton or Carol Joseph. You heard Carol Joseph yesterday, and the leader of the opposition, instead of condemning it, you know what he said? Oh, the journalist, it might be illegal what she was doing. She was recording Carol Joseph. That is his takeaway from it. And even when she gave an apology, she basically doubled down on the fact it wasn't a real apology. That's people cussing out. So these things are going to continue to happen. There are a number of other things I see again. They have, on the matter with, I saw a headline which says, U.S. firm used by Shell, that is Mohammed, has been working for government of Guyana, and that's a fact. Let me tell you the history of this. So, because I was asked by a few reporters, now, we hired this firm, the government of Guyana. As you've seen, they filed with the relevant U.S. authorities to represent us in New York. Sometime last year, about October, we heard the firm was in Guyana, and we said, what are you doing in Guyana? And they said that their client is the Mohammed. The Director General immediately called them in and said, you can't work for us if you're working for a private individual. And if you don't, we're going to terminate our engagement. We're now renewing our engagement, which is coming to an end in April. So in March, we gave them notice and we terminated the engagement because we don't think that they can represent us as a government and represent a private individual. They had to make a choice. And so that was our position. So this was in October of last year. The Director General met with them and gave them that ultimatum, basically. So that was, I saw that was in the newspapers. We're looking forward to the visit of the foreign minister from India. As you know, I saw something about oil and gas and long-term contracts and stuff. At this stage, we signed a broad-based MOU. So India will at some point in time maybe seek to buy crude from Guyana, as the High Commissioner pointed out, and a point we made in India, because there were some talk about giving a discount on the freight when some oil companies came from India, and I made it clear to the petroleum minister in India and everyone I spoke with that any sale of our crude will have to be on commercial terms, not a discounted term. And so that is our position as of today, but we don't have a proposal at this point in time to buy crude as yet. So because I saw that came up, but we're moving forward on many of the other areas in agriculture. We are waiting a proposal to do a number of things, tissue culture, which could revolutionize agriculture. We're looking for a proposal that can do about 4 million plants per year. Because if we go through our regular nurseries now, if you go to the one at Timeri or Nari, it's just a couple of trees they have there. That can't support the massive agricultural drive and the efforts we're putting in agriculture, growing new industries, etc. So we are anxiously waiting to move forward on that. A proposal from India that would come work with us on not only setting up a tissue culture lab, but at the scale at which I mentioned, and probably man it for a while and train Guyanese over time to take over this major task. We're waiting on the biodiesel, not the biodiesel, but biofuels, a proposal from India, but this is more the private sector working with our private sector, supported by the government, because we believe that in the rice industry, the waste, they're utilizing it well in India and very efficiently to do this. And therefore, they can utilize a lot of the biomass that we waste here into doing this sort of thing. We're looking at recruiting some specialists in other areas in rice. We have to get the productivity of our rice sector up, the sugar industry up, a whole range of new sectors that we are working on. I spoke of them the last time. I don't want to list them again. But we believe that the specialists from India may assist in these areas. So we're looking forward to working with India, and the foreign minister's visit hopefully will give a boost to that, the engagements there in these sectors of the economy. These are now, you've seen the price. Their assessment is being done now. I see Kaichor News wants us to give not to the highest bidder. Imagine that. I was shocked to say, you don't need to give it to the highest bidder. Now, had we done that on our own, you would hear about all these secret investors. I'm still waiting for the secret investor that, as I said before, I'll resign if a single, that the 400 stories written in Kaichor News about the secret investor, the 400 stories in the last 10 years, that if they can provide a single secret investor, that I will resign. Yet you have that nearly 400 news stories about the secret investor that they can produce up to now in the country. So we need to move on. These are just some of the things I wanted to deal with. Thank you. Yes, please.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Monica, correspondent for the Associated Press. And we're visiting Guyana to work on several stories, including the oil.
I'm sorry, because it's a party press conference, so that I'm getting, our country's business. That's not for the world at large. The oil is fine, but not.
Right, and this is related to the party's business. So, what does the newfound wealth, oil wealth, mean to your country? And do you believe that the government is equipped to handle this massive influx of revenue?
Yes. So, let me just give you a perspective, because internationally, if you read the news articles or the commentaries or the presentations done by people, you will think that Guyana has been awash with money from the first day we started producing oil. Now, the first 2 years, the average revenue was $350 million. Last year, it was just over $1 billion. So considering the size of our budget, it's not even a third of the budget. It's not even a third of the budget, the revenue. In the outer years, you're going to have significantly more revenue beyond maybe 2025, 2026 in the outer years as the production grows. But at this point in time, we're not awash with money. That's the first perspective that we need to get clearly, a more nuanced perspective out there. Secondly, we have amended the Natural Resources Fund to ensure that there's greater transparency around 4 issues. 1, the receipt of funds. 2, the allocation to the budget. 3, from the Natural Resources Fund to the budget. 3, the use of the funds. And 4, the oversight. The first is that in terms of receipt, the last government, as you would have known, got a signing bonus. They didn't inform the country. We found out a year and a half later. They said that when the Minister of Finance was asked, he denied it, and then he said, he thought it was a gift. Well, the law now states that the Minister of Finance has to, within 3 months of receipt of any fund from the oil companies, he has to publish that sum in the official gazette and notify the Parliament of Guyana. So at the end of the year, the entire country will know. All they have to do is to go to the official gazette and total them, and they will know how much money we collected for the year from the oil and gas company. If the minister fails to do that, we've put in place a 10 years jail term for failure to do that. So the receipt now will be transparently done. Secondly, in the Natural Resources Fund, that was the one we amended, had a very complex system for determining how much you will take from the fund to the budget. It had several committees established, a macroeconomic committee, a fiscal committee, etc. But at the end of the day, only the Minister of Finance would have known how much. We put in place a formula. So now the whole country knows. It's formula based. So you can know even before the Minister of Finance puts out his budget, how much money, by applying the formula to the sum collected from the previous year, which you would have known, you can know how much money will come to the budget. So the allocation to the budget is done on the basis of a formula. It's transparently done. The third is the use of the funds. So we've made it clear in our manifesto and in our programs that these resources must go for a number of things: for adaptation, for climate change, for health, education, job creating initiatives, etc. And some would be saved. So every cent that is transferred into the budget now, the Minister of Finance has to appropriate those funds. So it means a full debate in Parliament on all of the projects to be funded utilizing these resources. So that's in terms of allocation, the entire Parliament, open debate. And then in terms of monitoring, etc., we have several bodies, including an NGO group that will not only do the report independently, but would also they would notify the Parliament directly. And the Minister of Finance then has to notify the Parliament about the Natural Resources Fund. There is a fifth area where we look at management of the fund too. In the past, the Minister of Finance was managing the fund, basically ultimate authority. We put in a board of directors, and including representatives from the private sector and the professions. So that is how the money, we've done that. We've strengthened the institution relating to the use of the funds. It would be transparently done. We have identified the areas we want to use the resources in. Those projects have to be debated in Parliament, and then the money would be used in those areas. And the areas are the ones that I mentioned. Not for fancy buildings or prestige projects, etc., but to put in the wave of infrastructure too, for the next wave of non-oil growth. So getting the electricity prices down by 50%, oil and gas in the gas to energy project that will transform electricity supply to Guyana, stability and price. We're building a series of bridges for territorial integration, but will change the flow of investments across the regions, 12 new hospitals, that sort of thing. So a very clear program as to where the money will go.
The Natural Resources Fund, and how much money has the government spent on these type of infrastructure projects?
Well, so far we're spending more than is in the fund. There is a limited set of resources in the Natural Resources Fund now, because the formula is as you get to more money, then a bigger share is saved. But at the beginning, we could not save more money when we have all these unmet needs, like 12 hospitals, or a number of schools to be built, or free education that we're going to offer sometime soon, or like the highways that we have to put in because changes now, new bridges, power plants, and all of that stuff. So that's how we are approaching it.
And sorry, to clarify, the numbers that you quoted is Guyanese dollars?
No, the US dollars, US dollars. Those are US dollars. Right. Yes, please.
Marcel Thomas from the South. You spoke about contesting all 610 constituencies. And that it's okay to want to bring in everyone. My question is your strategy one now of winning takes all? That's one. And two, on farm and chase green. You, your government, the party, everybody, has condemned prominent persons and politicians who did not condemn the attempted stealing of the 2020 elections. Farmer Chase Green is a prominent politician. She said nothing during this period. She was also the mayor.
You want to let me a pen, please, so I can make the notes? Yeah. So, first, yes.
Yes. She was also the mayor
Yeah.
at the time of the controversial parking to contract project which your government has condemned and has heavily criticized. That case is now before the courts for multi-million US dollars. So you find it hypocritical that you now welcome this person to your house, and how do you justify this at all? And you also said we're not intolerant to criticism. Yes? What examples what examples can you give her? Which persons you've not been intolerant of that is criticized?
Okay.
All right, so let me deal with that one, the intolerant to criticism. So, I can give you 1,000 examples. You have seen me in politics for a long time. You've seen the thousands of community meetings I've had, where people come and sometimes they say the vilest things about you or the ministers. They come and complain about the government, about you personally, etc. When have you ever seen us being intolerant to that? Because you know why? They criticize often to get something fixed. They don't criticize for the sake of criticism, or they're not coming with an agenda, a political agenda. They come there to get their problems resolved. I have been the one just recently to say, share on the social media. If somebody is doing a road, there are a couple thousands of roads being done. We can't see all of it. But if there is a problem with one and you live in a community, take a picture of it, send it to the minister, post it on social media so that it helps us. It's not a criticism. We don't see it as a criticism that the PPPO is going to run you down because you post on media. But say, this is what is being done. Can someone look into it? We've been encouraging this. I did that a few weeks ago, urging people to. Thousands, so not one, Marcel, and I'm surprised that you would ask me that question. Now that you know, have thousands of examples, you've seen this, all right? But it is, again, the duplicity is these people who come, the do-gooders, and when you just remove the screen, you see all the the vile, dirty things fall out. They don't come to criticize because they want an issue resolved. Can you imagine how could this group sensibly say, this group of environmentalists, that we are causing the climate change globally? Our little operations have just started here. How could you sensibly say that? And they get the prominence they write every day in the newspaper. Just think as a reporter and everyone else in this country, how could they sensibly say that? Our emissions is a the tiniest fraction of global emissions. The climate change today, what we have is, and the concentration of greenhouse gases that's already there, that's stressing our planet at this point in time, all came practically from the developed world. And they say that. And then people take them seriously. How could you take anyone like that seriously? And they would never say that. The US is expanding, but these are the same persons who will be invited to make a speech in the US and never say a word about their level of emission or anywhere else. But here, it's an operation. So that's what I'm saying. That's the kind of criticism we push back again, because it's nonsense. But not when people are seeking to get issues resolved. That's the first. There was one I missed, and then the Chase Green one. The first one. Oh, the winner take all, yes. So the winner take all, that's what's being contested now. And so if people didn't contest, we gotta take it, because we won before. So we won in a good 40-something% of the constituencies already. So there's nobody to share it with there, because nobody contested. So that's one. Anyhow, at the national level, I suspect that's what you're talking about. I've made it clear that of the changes we have made, I don't want to repeat it myself. I've pointed out all the provisions, the numerous provisions of our Constitution, where we built in mechanisms, powerful commissions that are bipartisan in nature, that can focus on power sharing basically at the level of the legislature, from the management of parliament down to human rights, in the ethnic relations, indigenous people, gender issues, etc. All of these matters can be dealt with in the parliament in a bipartisan way through bipartisan committees. And to appoint these bodies, you have to have bipartisan support. So we built that in. I said the executive power sharing, you already know. I'm not saying this will never happen in our country, but I'm saying that you have to build a level of trust before you do that. You can't have, and two things that the PNC has to do before you even start thinking about that. One is to move away from rigging elections. They think they can rig elections because that seems to be built in to Congress place DNA. They don't want to move from that. And nobody in this country, not even their supporters, are tolerant of that anymore. They believe you have to work to get people's support. And so the cabal at Congress Place, that I don't want to call them names, so I shouldn't call names, but that cabal, that's hopeless. They need to move away from rigging elections and to being racist. And that's a starting point. They would never discuss any policy except race. So this is something, as I said before, we'll repeat, but we're working to bring people together, as you've seen. If you can't do it through the APNU, then people would need to come into the party, and as soon as they cross that threshold, then they see what the PPP is all about. Things that have kept them away. What we are doing now, One Guyana and all of this, for years we have we have sought to bring people together. You know what has kept people away? Is the rumor mill. Because they always felt the sense, oh, they're betraying, they'd be shamed, they'd be harassed in their communities, all of that stuff. But I think people have gotten to a stage where, and especially a new generation, to say, I will look out for my family and my future, and I will assess people on the basis of their work. And that is why you've seen more and more people now doing that. On Chase Green, you asked two things. On the parking meter, and you asked about us criticizing people who didn't say much about the 5 months period of rigging. And yes, it's true that we have been critical of some people. So we don't pick random people and start criticizing them for saying nothing. It is, if you look at it carefully, again, it is the ones who are being selective. Chase Green didn't say much then, but she didn't say much subsequently. She has now been in the media saying that the PPP is doing this. And when, like totalitarian, the PPP is totalitarian, when they're the ones trying to steal elections. So it is the duplicity, it's the double standard for all of these who now come out when, at the drop of a hat, they don't even know the issue, they come out and criticize the PPP on democracy. Oh, if Ogunse is charged for racism, and he's openly racist, the country has seen that, then it is because democracy is not working well in Guyana. Those are the ones who will criticize because they didn't say a word when real democracy was under threat. So Chase Green didn't say much in the 5 months period, and she didn't say much in the other subsequently. So we didn't go and single out people to criticize them in this country. It's the ones who are duplicitous, and that's why, and who are politically motivated to make that point. On the parking meter, yes, Chase Green was a central play. But as I said before, if we have to often, if there are she's found culpable in any way whatsoever, we should have to deal with the consequences. But we don't let one issue define how we relate to people. And if we did that, some of the most, we never basically have crossover. Let me give you an example. Chase Green was part of the GGG at the beginning. Let me tell you some other people who have come to us who were part of the GGG. Edge Hill. Edge Hill came in, he made a cross, put his faith in us, because people were saying, he told me when he came up to Freedom House the first time, how's his experience? He wasn't too sure. Today, Edge Hill is a leading member of the cabinet. He's the Minister of Public Works. He has one of the biggest portfolio, in fact, the biggest portfolio under his control. And next person who came over, Joe Hamilton from GGG. Joe Hamilton, is the Minister of Labor today. Work all the years, upward mobility. People would say, oh, when you come to the PP, that's why I said, out there, I think they're very upset with me when I said that not only you're going to help when I spoke with the candidates about developing the country, but we believe in your own upward mobility, and we'd work with you. We want positive people coming to us. It doesn't mean we want people who are ambitious, excited, who want to build a home for their family and own a car and have a nice job and go on vacation. We don't want dodos. So why would I be ashamed? They said, oh, people coming to the PPP, to look, Jagdeo just promised them some benefits there. If we're doing this for the whole country, we want to do so even more for people who come to us in terms of guidance and being positive to them. And saying you gotta invest a bit of your money, you gotta get something going. So we believe in that. So Hamilton today came. They grew up. It shows you can work your way up into this party, even if you come with a different background. And they were PNC at the beginning. Kwame McCoy wouldn't like me to say that, but Kwame McCoy is smiling. Kwame McCoy was a member of GGG too. And Kwame McCoy is Minister McCoy today. You have a number of other people, I can't even remember the names. So people see that. You come into the movement. You know what some people said to me in 2018 and stuff from Georgetown? People who poured out their lives for the PNC, who will not feed their children, but would take their money and pay the fare to go to a meeting, who did all sorts of things. They said not only did they, well, as soon as they got into office, they failed to recognize us. And now our lives are worse than before. These are hardcore PNC members. But we've been thinking about it, that we look at people who have come to the PPP, and they've all made upward mobility. And in the party and the government. And we should have done this before. We delayed it. So that's the conversation that we want to encourage people to have in their homes. Look at our track record. And so, Chase Green, yes, she may add this thing on the parking meter, and I look at it too. But look at how many people you still have with some real serious thing. Winston Jordan sold a property that is worth 30 million US for 100,000 US dollars. He's in court now. I'm not saying right away that Jordan is coming, but before they go and harass him. But that is how we approach it. We are a party that moves on. We believe that people have chances, second chances. We believe in that second chance thing. That's why we're building a prison now, a modern prison. And in that prison, we are building a school for compulsory schooling, and then a trade school too. So two, academic as well as training, because we believe people must be given second chances in life too. Of course, we have to be tough on crime, but at the same time, you have to give people pathways. Our party is open-minded, a broad-minded party. Yes, Dennis? Yeah, there are about 6 names that I know of. About 6 names that I know of that we have since replaced. About 6 names.
I'm aware that the EPA was objected to 16 names.
16 names. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy if that's the case. We have a long list. We don't want to expose the people. A lot of them are going directly to the ROs, and they don't want their names mentioned at the national level, some of them. But the 16 persons of 25,000 backers, and 2,000 candidates, if we have 16 persons with deficiencies, sometimes people forgot to sign the form, or some little things like that. It's not a big deal, but we didn't forge anybody's name and put them on. That was no forgery. Oh, well then he could send it to GCOM, and then let's see. GCOM will contact us. No, I'm not aware of his 16. But did he give you the list of 16? All right. So why don't you share, and then we can give you a response to that, because I've not seen it.
I'm concerned that the prison, when the Georgia prison be shut down,
The idea is to concentrate all of our activities there. I don't know whether we shut it down totally yet, but the idea is that soon most of the prisoners will be out of there. So we have not made a formal decision as yet, but it seems as though it's heading that way. That's what I can say at this point. No decision has been made whatsoever. No decision has been made. I know that the locking down the road has affected a lot of the business around the area. They complain a lot about when you lock off the road, it's affecting the business and stuff. The people come to us all the time, their business ventures are being affected.
There are reports in certain media today that there is a post-trade embargo on producers from that country imposed by authorities here. They're also blaming you for doing that and saying that it is in retaliation for the 150 license that were not granted.
Trade embargo? What do you mean by that? Like, I didn't see that.
Preventing produce, fresh produce like fruits and vegetables coming from Suriname to Ghana.
Well, I wasn't even aware that that's happening, but we have phytosanitary standards to maintain too. And I don't know whether it's true or not, because I haven't seen it in mainstream media, or I don't think we have been notified formally. But Suriname and some of the ministers, especially that Minister of Agriculture, the one there, I don't have any faith in him. He's a shady character, I need to say that. Shady character with what he did with the fishermen licenses. Huh? No, no, I haven't followed it. You heard, please ask Minister of Agriculture. Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, I spoke with the Minister of Finance, and he's going to upload all of on the Ministry of Finance's webpage. It may be up, but he might be busy. So all of the bauxite contracts, the large-scale mining contracts, and the forestry contracts would all be uploaded now to the Ministry of Finance webpage. So that will be, I since been able to follow up, and so now you're going to have all of those. So just ask Minister Ashley when it's done, but I will check with him too, because last week we spoke and he was told to upload all of them. So now you got that one issue, hopefully off the table. Off the table. I'm not going to hear somebody come back. And don't, all right, go.
Yeah. Secondly, the repeated development plans for ongoing projects. When will they be released?
What? Which project? Which? Which one? IRA, long time finished. IRA is finished a long time. The license has been issued already. Which one? No, you got to continue the question. Don't say later I harass you. I just ask you which one you're talking about. Okay, all right, okay.
Sorry, there's been a big debate in the media about insurance liability. I've already touched upon switching about still for. What policies have the government been putting in place, or how far have you come in securing a system or an insurance policy?
So as I explained last week, I explained to the media and when I did the press conference that the issues that were raised in the first audit about the certificates, etc., not being available, also from the partners, that now they have the full certificate for $600 million of insurance, and that they are in the process now of finalizing the guarantee. And so the EPA said to me, one remaining issue, they've narrowed it down to one remaining issue, but this will be resolved, I said to you, in a matter of weeks, so we now have the parent guarantee too. Yes, yes. So that's up. I don't. That's up to the journalists to make a report. That's a journalist. That's up to the journalist, not up to me. No, no, no. I'm not dealing with hypotheticals. Well, I'm not dealing with hypotheticals. I would like to see also the peeping tom who's been so thing. Would you think I should file a police report against peeping tom to get identify the true person? That disparages everything, comments on policies, but this is not journalism. Who are the peeping tom? Is it Glenn Lal who is the peeping tom? Would you tell me who the peeping tom is? I would like to find out that when you come the next time. Okay, but if it's up to the person, if he feels that I've condemned it without any reservations, I've condemned it. Should not have happened, and it's fine. But it's up to the person if they believe that they should take legal action. Okay. Yes. You were trying to get right. No. We've had lots of discussions with people. We meet a lot of people. We talk to them. We try to convince them about our vision, where we're trying to take the country. We're not an aloof party or government. Every day you see us in the field. We've kept access to people, those who campaign with us and others, because we believe, and it is through these processes that you find people, they come to you, you talk to them, you say, are you interested? And that's how it works out. There's no single event. It's like an ongoing process. And this is happening right across the country. I must say, I'm extremely proud that we've been able, in all the areas, as I said before, in Linden, New Amsterdam, Kwakwani, Georgetown, everywhere, but Afro-Ghanaian strongholds. I saw Norton's ambitious plan, which is to beat us in his strongholds. That was his ambitious plan, to beat us in his strongholds. Now, that can't be your ambitious plan, because we're the underdogs here. We're the underdogs. You've been strong in your own areas all the time. You've controlled these areas for ages. And we're trying to point out to people in the city and other areas how they would be better served if they have a council that is controlled by the PPP. So it's an important thing. We're taking the messages out. Yesterday, we had a team that went through Lodge, and they told me people are generally very receptive, and they had one person who gave them a cussing, and they accepted that. But we're going to go to the homes of people. We did this in 2016 and 2018. We took flyers to almost every home in the city, and we're going to do so again. We want people to understand, what is ACNU going to say to the residents of the city? At least we can say something, because we've never been there, and we haven't controlled the place. They've controlled it for 57 years. So what are they going to tell people now? I don't know what. They've made a mess, not only of the country, but the city. And so, to come back to your point, we do this a lot, engagement with people. So it's out of those processes that a lot of the candidates came up. Young people, young footballer, young cricketer, people should be proud that we're getting young people, this young footballer or Jacobs or Alfonso, right? These are a young businessman to come out. Just imagine if they're part of a city council. They can make a big difference. You know, look at the list of candidates. I saw him, Norton, running down, oh, this Tricia Richards didn't matter, she's junior and stuff. She was your councillor. She won the area. Chase Green won there in the last local government elections. He just disparages them just like that. Yeah. The thing is, it's a lack of accountability that is the biggest problem there. And the non-focus on development. They focus on everything else except development. By winning, that is what we want to focus on. That you reorient the entire council to development. You know, and a lot of things can happen in the city with support from the central government, intermediated directly through the city. Now we have to like fix the road. Even if we want to do an improvement program, like you see a lot of the improvement programs, Pontrench Dam. And look at what we've started already. We always had these ideas about changing the country, but also the city. We might not have that much money in the past. But when Pontrench Dam is completed, and you have 2 roads there, new roads and a boulevard in between, going all the way to Cemetery Road, where a 4-lane road is. Just imagine what will happen to the property values along that road. It could become the new Regent Street. All the property values will skyrocket. Already people's property values are growing in the city. We'll transform the area totally. What we have done on Lamaya Street would add parking to the city. This is a city function. But just imagine how many thousands of vehicles would be able to find parking in the city now. From Kingston all the way to the gas station on Sheriff Street. Because that's how we're using the entire railway embankment. You'd have a boulevard, people can walk there in the afternoon and stuff, but you'd have parking. Tens of thousands of vehicles can park, so that you start changing that. The same thing between Campbellville and Prashad Nagar. So we had to bring more traffic, but we're doing it in a manner where recreationally a boulevard would be there. Nice people can go out in the afternoon, take their dog or their children or whatever else and go out recreationally, changing the city. All the improvements in the city. You can collaborate with these guys now. We try to clear the entrance of the hospital. People are going in ambulance, the ambulance can't pass through. And they went there, the mayor went there to block us clearing the entrance to the premier hospital in the city with people who are not authorized to be there, blocking the ambulances even going in. So just imagine if you had a cooperative city council, how much closer we can work with them on changing the city. If you start driving south now with the roads we're fixing and the things, you see also the bright lights shifting to that area. By bright lights, I mean development and development opportunities. Go drive through now, go down Mandela, and you'd see how the south is changing. And soon, south would be like North Georgetown. Everything used to be here. You'd have hotels just down the road, just off Aubrey Barker Road, a massive new international hotel, hospitals, all of that. The entire South Georgetown. And property values for people who live there will also go up, everything. And for every community, every region, we have similar plans. It's not just the city, but we need to be able to get a supportive council to do some of these things. Yes, that's it. Okay, thank you very much.